Coming to paperback and e-readers, ISIS Legacy. The sorority secrets from the goddess next door are revealed in this all-new ISIS series adventure. Pre-order your copy of ISIS Legacy on Amazon.com today. One of my viewers wanted me to talk about how the UFC champion Israel Adeseyna went out here to defend your Joe Rogan. Now, a couple of days ago, your Israel Adeseyna, at a press conference for his upcoming UFC fight, came out and said that your Joe Rogan was his N-word and said F the noise. Now, when your Israel Adeseyna made the statement to defend your Joe Rogan, it was basically another case of one of these house slaves coming to defend an overseer. Now, your Joe Rogan basically is an overseer over your media as a part of his Joe Rogan experience, and his job is to oversee the narrative for the right wing of white supremacy. And as the overseer of the narrative of white supremacy, he has been called out by those on the left side of white supremacy for being a racist. And the main reason why they are calling out your Joe Rogan as a racist has nothing to do with black people. It is because they disagree with the narratives he is presenting regarding the jab as related to COVID-19. And as they are trying to demonize your Joe Rogan for his opinions on this jab and the pandemic, what these people on the left want to do is try to demonize your Joe Rogan by calling him a racist. Now, it is known, as related to past podcasts, your Joe Rogan has used the N-word extensively and has made numerous racist statements against black people. Now, those people on the left had no problem with your Joe Rogan making these racist statements in the past. However, they only had a problem with Joe Rogan making these racist statements today because he is coming out on a political position that is opposite of theirs. And as he comes out on this political position that is opposite of theirs, they want to go out here and demonize him. And they want to demonize him basically because his media platform is reaching more viewers than all of their corporate oligarchical institutions. Now, your Joe Rogan's Joe Rogan Experience gets 11 million viewers per podcast, and that's upsetting many on the left as they're watching their platforms like CNN and MSNBC barely getting the views of a top YouTube channel. And because nobody is really listening to the left's message, they want to attack Joe Rogan on the right and say that he is a racist, when in actuality, both sides are racist, and both sides have promoted racism and anti-black narratives on their platforms for years. But what they want to do with Joe Rogan on the right is go out here and trot out a whole host of your house slaves to come out here and say your Joe Rogan is not racist. However, your Joe Rogan has participated in saying the N-word numerous times, and he has said it with the same contempt as a white supremacist. And what they want to do is go out here and find some celebrity bootlicks to try to make it look like your Joe Rogan is not a racist. Unfortunately, when they go out here and find a guy like an Israel Adeseyna, what that does is further reinforce the point that your Joe Rogan is nothing more than a overseer for the media arm of white supremacy, because when you go out here and get a Nigerian foreign-born black who goes out here and says, oh, Joe Rogan is his N-word, it shows me how out of touch he actually is as related to his blackness. Because the reason why they go out here and get these foreign-born blacks to go out here and defend them, like your Israel Adeseyna, is because many of these foreign-born blacks think that they are better than foundational black Americans, and because these foreign-born blacks think they are in a special, privileged position, they believe that they are not seen the same way as black Americans. That's the reason why your Israel Adeseyna can come out here and say that Joe Rogan is his N-word, because your Israel Adeseyna sees himself as an honorary white man. And because he sees himself as an honorary white man, he can go out here and believe he can use the N-word the same way that Joe Rogan does, because he sees black people with the same contempt, the same way your Joe Rogan does. So that's why he can go out here and defend your Joe Rogan, because he has the same racist ideas and racist views that your Joe Rogan has for foundational black Americans. And this is something that some foreign-born blacks have regarding your foundational black Americans like myself. A lot of them have contempt for foundational black American people, and they can go out here and say the N-word. And because they think they're getting favor and approval from whites, they believe that it's okay for them to go out here and say the N-word, because they think that they are so special. That is, again, why we saw all of these, as I see it, house slaves running up to defend your Joe Rogan, because they want to have that special privilege, and they want to say, oh, your Joe Rogan isn't racist. But from what I heard when I was doing a live stream with Gboot2786, as he was playing some recordings of your Joe Rogan from the past, he clearly shows me that he is a racist, and he's out here saying racist statements. But what's really sad is we've got a whole group of Hollywood and enablers in the entertainment industry looking to make excuses for this man's racist statements. And what's even more disturbing than the bootlicks that go out here and make these racist statements is that we've got these leftists who want to go out here and make your Joe Rogan this super bad guy, when in actuality they participate in the same racism as Joe Rogan. Because again, it's really interesting that they had no problem with Joe Rogan for the 2 years before he started speaking against the jab, and as he was on their platforms calling people the N-word, they had no problem with him saying that N-word until he started to speak against a ideology they were promoting and a narrative they were promoting. So that really shows me how disingenuous those on the left are as related to their whole narrative on Joe Rogan being a racist. They want to only call him a racist when they disagree with him, but when he was silent about his positions on this pandemic and this jab, that's when they had a problem with Joe Rogan. And basically, they wanted to go out here and play the race card and use black people as pawns in their game in order to try to push a narrative to try to cancel your Joe Rogan. And that's where black people really need to have an issue with those on the left, because they are not really serious about dealing with Joe Rogan's racism. No, this is all about Joe Rogan's politics, and it's all about them disagreeing with Joe Rogan's politics. And if things weren't, if there was no pandemic going on, these people would have no problem with Joe Rogan's racism, and they would practically be silent about Joe Rogan's racism, because Spotify would continue making money on Joe Rogan's racism, and they still do make money on Joe Rogan's racism. But the only reason why they're coming out is because they are in the middle of a political discourse with Joe Rogan's positions. And again, this is no different than one slave master having an issue with another slave master, like during the dark days of the antebellum South. One slave master who was making cotton and the other one was making cotton and they wanted to make profit. So the other one would demonize the other one's plantation in order to try to persuade people to buy his cotton. So basically, what they would do is say that he doesn't treat his slaves right in an effort to try to shame that buyer from buying his cotton. And that's what's being done here on both of these plantations, the right and the left. And what they want to do is make it where people are shamed into buying the left's cotton because they treat their slaves better. And what they're doing on the right is trying to defend their slave master or the overseer over their media by saying Joe Rogan is good white folk, Joe Rogan treats us nice, Joe Rogan feeds us nice. That's what these celebrities like India Ari, your Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson before he retracted his tweet on Twitter, and your Israel Adeseyna are doing. They're coming out in defense of this overseer of the media, and they're coming out to defend this good overseer who allows them to take breaks in the sun when the sun gets too hot, and even allows them to get a little bit of water before they go back to picking cotton on the Hollywood plantation. So that's what's going on here. It's just one side of white supremacy mad at the other, and again, black people are pawns, and because they don't see the chess moves being done here, they get emotional about Joe Rogan being this racist. But the whole thing is, I can't get upset about this whole game between these two slave masters because we already knew that this man was a racist. We already knew that he had racist views, and that's not something new to us, because if you're about black empowerment, you already understand that those many in the media have racist views and anti-black narratives, and they have no problem supporting anti-black narratives on their platforms because these anti-black narratives are how they make their money. So what's really, again, troubling here is that many people are upset about Joe Rogan being a racist and not really understanding that this is just par for the course when it comes down to these feuds between the left slave plantation and the right slave plantation. They go out here and trot out their bootlicks, whether they are American-born like India Ari, mixed race like Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, or your Israel Adeseyna, a foreign-born bootlick. They always go out here and trot out their house slaves to defend their overseers because they want us to believe that their overseers are good white folk, but neither side is good at all, and the only thing they want to do is try to get black people emotional about your Joe Rogan to demand that he be canceled and sate their emotions as related to things. But the real problem is that neither side is being genuine, and this is all about a disagreement between those on the left and those on the right, and they want to go out here and get us involved in their codependent argument where they're going to prove one is better than the other. And again, that's what your Israel Adeseyna is being used here for. And this is, again, no different than what they do with your bootlicks all the time. Your bootlicks are just used as pawns, and they'll go out here and defend their white masters and their overseers because that's what codependent slaves do, because they're looking for the love of this white man, and they're looking for acceptance of this white man. And that's why we, as foundational black Americans who are about black empowerment, have to walk away from these bootlicks and leave them to the slave plantation, because a lot of them are not going to want to move their lives forward. And if they don't want to move their lives forward, we have to leave the bootlick class on the plantation and leave them to the mercy of the tender mercies, I would say, of their slave masters. Now, this video was requested by one of my viewers, and if you want to request a video and I know something about the subject, you can send a donation to the PayPal or the Cash App. And again, if I know something about that video, I will make that video for you. And you can also, if you want to help out, you can pick up some of the books on the SJS Direct imprint, like the Isis series, the E-Steam series, the John Haynes series, or the books of the Spinsterella trilogy. That's all I have to say for this requested video. You can comment, rate, and subscribe. Now available in paperback and e-readers, Isis, Revenge of the Cyber Goddess. The goddess next door takes on the threat of a deadly digital diva driven to destroy the world in this action-packed, all-new Isis series adventure. Get Isis, Revenge of the Cyber Goddess featuring a bonus pin-up and the other 2 books in the Cyber Goddess saga at online bookstores everywhere today.